A few weeks ago, I was desperate for new photography spots. My freelance business was struggling. I often explored abandoned buildings to find that perfect shot. I thought I was used to their eerie silence, but this time was different. I pulled up to an old textile factory. The sky was dull and gray. The wind was cold. I felt a chill in my bones as I walked to the entrance. My camera felt heavy in my hands. Still, I wasn't going to turn back. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. Darkness wrapped around me like a blanket that I set up my camera and tried to focus. But I kept glancing over my shoulder. It felt like someone was watching. I took a few photos. After about 3 hours, I saw something flicker in the viewfinder. I blinked and shook my head. Maybe it was just my imagination. But then I heard a soft rustling sound, like fabric scraping along the floor. I turned slowly. No one was there. My heart raced. I felt sweat on my brow. I thought about leaving, but I didn't want to waste my time. When I got home, I checked the photos. My breath caught in my throat. In one shot, there were strange marks I hadn't seen while shooting. I didn't know what they were. I felt like I was losing it. Over the next few weeks, I tried 2 more abandoned sites. The first was an old warehouse. As I walked through dark corridors, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, but no one was there. Just my own breathing echoed in the stillness that I returned to the factory. This time, as I set up my camera, I caught a glimpse of what looked like a figure in my peripheral vision. I whipped around to look, but nothing was there. Just empty space. It felt like someone was waiting for me to leave. My hands trembled as I clicked the shutter. I hurried out, feeling the weight of eyes on my back. The final encounter broke something in me. I was in another warehouse. The air felt thick and heavy. I sensed a presence, a chill that wrapped around me. Then I heard a voice whisper, "Why are you here?" I froze. I felt like shadows were closing in. I could barely breathe. I turned around quickly, my heart racing. To my horror, I was completely alone. I still think about those moments. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe it wasn't. Every time I close my eyes, I see those buildings. I hear whispers. It's been haunting me. I felt it then, and I feel it now. Something is out there, waiting for me to return. The following week, I discovered my curiosity had morphed into an obsession. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to go back. I told myself it was for my photography, that somewhere in the darkness lived the perfect shot. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the only reason that I parked outside the textile factory again, the wind biting at my skin. This time, I felt determined. I would capture whatever was in there if it was real. Armed with my camera and a flashlight, I stepped inside. The heavy door creaked on its hinges, echoing through the empty space. I switched on the flashlight and scanned the area. Dust swirled in the beam of light, and I caught sight of the jagged edges of old machinery. I started snapping photos, but my heart wasn't in it. Every click of the shutter felt like an invitation for something unseen. About an hour in, just as I was starting to ease into the shadows, I heard that rustling sound again, closer this time. My stomach dropped. "Is anyone there?" I called out, trying to sound confident. No response. My breath quickened. I decided to explore deeper into the factory, compelled by both fear and excitement. As I wandered through the rotting halls, a soft glow caught my eye. I turned the corner and found a room lit faintly by the setting sun filtering through broken windows. On a table lay a stack of old photographs. Intrigued, I approached. The images showed factory workers in the early 1900s, some smiling, but others had expressions that sent chills down my spine. I flipped through them quickly, unease crawling in my gut. And then I saw it. In one photo, there was a woman standing slightly apart from the others. Her features were blurred, but her presence felt heavy, as if she was looking right at me through time. I staggered back, almost dropping my camera, when I noticed something else, an odd mark on the floor leading away from the table, barely visible under layers of dust. It was a series of footprints, but they didn't look like they belonged to anyone I could understand. They were too small, almost childlike. My heart raced. Had I disturbed something? Just as I turned to back away, I heard a whisper, clear this time. "Help me." It was soft, almost pleading. I froze, the words wrapping around me. I mustered all my energy and forced my legs to move, but I was too late. The door slammed shut behind me with a resounding bang. Panic surged through me. I was trapped. My mind raced as I fumbled for my camera, the only source of light in the pitch darkness. But suddenly, it flickered and went dead. My heart pounded in my ears. I was engulfed in utter blackness, the whisper still echoing. "Help me." I fumbled blindly, desperate to find the door. All I could hear was my own ragged breathing alongside that haunting voice. And then, right next to me, I felt a cold hand grip my wrist. I screamed, but the darkness swallowed my voice whole. The last thing I registered was the grip tightening, dragging me back into the shadows. My eyes struggled to adjust to the darkness as the grip on my wrist tightened. The coldness of the hand sent chills skittering down my spine. I panicked, yanking my arm in an attempt to free myself, but it was unyielding. "Let me go," I pleaded, my voice shaky and small. My voice barely echoed in the empty room, swallowed by the silence. The grip didn't loosen. I could feel something shift around me, the air thickening. With adrenaline pumping through me, I jerked away again and stumbled backward, the darkness shifting as I moved. I collided with what felt like a wall. I pressed my back against it, trying to catch my breath. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out everything else. Then, the whisper came again, "Help me." It was even closer, like the words were right next to my face. My heart raced as I desperately reached out, hands flailing for any surface to guide me. I had to get out. I breathed slowly, forcing myself to calm down. Taking a step sideways, I tried to feel my way along the wall. I inched toward where I thought the door had been. The coldness of the floor was unsettling beneath my feet. It felt wrong, like I was stepping on something other than concrete. Suddenly, the hand released me. I staggered, almost falling forward. I squinted into the darkness, searching for the glimmer of light from the door I hoped was still there. My chest felt heavy, each breath just as tight as the grip that had held me moments before. I opened my mouth to call out again, but before I could speak, I heard a shuffling behind me. My heart dropped. Fear gripped me once more. I turned, expecting to see nothing, but instead, there was a brief flicker of light, a flash like something mobile darting just out of reach. I froze again, my instincts screaming for me to run. But where? I quickly scanned the darkness, my mind racing. I focused on the sound of the light, the soft creaking mixed with a whisper that seemed to travel through the shadows. "Help me." It was all taking shape in my head. Perhaps I wasn't alone after all. That I took a hesitant step forward, and the light flickered again, brighter this time. I dared to take another few steps, the pulse of fear driving me forward. I followed the whispers, teetering between trepidation and a compulsion to find the source. Then, I stumbled into another room. My heart dropped at the sight before me. Old, tattered clothing hung from the ceiling, swaying gently as if moved by a cold wind. The walls were lined with more photos. But this time, they were of children sad and lost. Their eyes bore into me, each pair reminding me of the voice that called for help. As I looked closer, one child stood out, a girl with unkempt hair and hollow cheeks. She seemed to watch me as if she recognized me. I took a deep breath, suddenly feeling all the fear that had built up inside me crash down. I was here to help, but what exactly did she want? When I noticed the same strange footprints leading out of the room, smaller than the ones I'd seen before. They were fresh in the dust, and they seemed to beckon me to follow. No, I thought. I can't. But the pull was too strong. My curiosity outweighed my fear. I stepped forward, following the small footprints deeper into the factory, not yet knowing where it would lead me or what awaited in the shadows ahead. The footprints led me through a narrowing corridor, the air growing colder as I moved further in. Each step felt like an unsettling echo of a past long forgotten. I kept glancing back nervously, half expecting the hand that had grabbed me to return, but there was only darkness and silence. With every twist and turn, the walls began to close in, as if the factory itself wanted to trap me here. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, the fabric doing little to shield me from the creeping chill that gnawed at my skin. The whispers grew softer, merging into a low hum that made me question if I was really just hearing things. Then I noticed something, a faint glow ahead. It was a weak light, flickering like a candle during a storm. I felt a surge of hope, but it was quickly tempered by doubt. I approached cautiously, every instinct telling me to turn back. But the light flickered with an urgency, as if it wanted me to come closer. As I reached the end of the corridor, I entered a small room illuminated by scattered pieces of broken glass reflecting the weak light. In the center stood an antique mirror, cracked and dusty. The glow seemed to pulse from within its frame. I could see my reflection, but it was strangely distorted. I blinked hard, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. Suddenly, the whispers intensified around me, echoing from the mirror. "Help me." The voice shattered the remaining calm in the air. I leaned in closer, squinting to make out the shapes swirling within the glass. Shadows danced, forming vague figures that looked like people, no, children, much like those in the photos. I staggered back, heart racing, as they pressed against the surface, their mouths moving but no sound coming through. I turned to run, but the door I had come through was gone, replaced by a solid wall. Panic surged through me. I banged my fists against the mirror, trying to break free from this nightmare. A crash echoed in the room, sending shards of glass skittering across the floor. That's when I saw one child standing clearly in the mirror. The girl with the hollow cheeks I had noticed earlier. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, it felt like she was reaching out, begging for something. I could see the fear mirrored in her gaze, and instead of running, I felt a pull, a desperate need to understand, to help. But before I could think further, the room shifted. I could hear noises coming from behind me, the soft padding of feet approaching from beyond the walls. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. "Who is there?" I called out, my voice trembling. The footsteps quickened, matching my rising fear. Whatever was in here with me was drawing near. My breath caught in my throat as the energy in the room transformed, thickening like smoke. I could sense movement in the darkness, something just out of sight. It was closer now, and I felt the weight of unseen eyes watching me. Then everything went dark. I was plunged into an inky black void, completely alone. In that moment, I couldn't tell if I was free or if something much worse had taken hold. Everything was pitch black. My heart raced as I stood frozen, unsure of what would come next. I tried to blink away the darkness, but nothing changed. I felt a chill enveloping me, heavier than before. The whispers had faded into nothingness, leaving an oppressive silence. Then, a flicker of light appeared again, but this time it was different. Instead of the warm glow I had seen before, it was a harsh, cold blue, illuminating my surroundings just enough to see the dim outlines of the room. I was still in the same space, but the mirror was gone. Confusion gripped me. As I looked around, I noticed that pieces of glass were no longer scattered on the floor. Instead, the walls were now covered in strange drawings, hastily scribbled in white chalk. They depicted frantic figures, children with terrified expressions, some reaching out as if trying to escape whatever fate had trapped them here. I took a tentative step forward, the floor creaking beneath my weight. The air felt electric, charged with an impending sense of danger. Then I heard a low moan emanating from the far corner of the room. It sent jolts of fear through me. I should have turned back, but I was drawn closer. The moaning turned into a whispered chant, the voices overlapping like some eerie harmony. My breath quickened as I strained to decipher the words. Help us, free us. My mind raced with questions. Who were they? What did they want from me? Suddenly, a shadow darted across the wall, too quick for me to register. I whipped around, my pulse pounding in my ears. Immediately, I noticed a heavy metal door I hadn't seen before. It stood slightly ajar, creaking eerily. I could feel a strange pull, urging me to investigate. Taking a deep breath, I approached the door. It felt wrong. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant lay beyond. As I pushed the door open, it swung wide to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. A scent wafted up the steps, a mix of damp earth and something sweet, almost like flowers. It was oddly inviting but also completely out of place. I hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. The moaning now seemed to rise from below, echoing through the stairwell. Help us, they pleaded again, sounding more desperate. I couldn't tell if it was real or a trick of my mind. I needed to find out what was happening. With a deep breath, I stepped into the stairway. Each step was uncertain, the air growing thick around me. Then came a soft click behind me. I turned quickly, only to find the door slamming shut, plunging me into darkness once more. Panic bubbled inside me as I realized I was trapped, cut off from whatever lay above. I pressed on, the voices growing louder as I descended, intertwining with my thoughts. I was running out of time to unravel the truth of what lay ahead, and something told me I wouldn't like it. The air crackled with anticipation as I reached the bottom of the stairs, prepared for whatever awaited me, but I wasn't prepared for the sight that met my eyes. The shadows on the walls started to move. The shadows shifted and elongated, swirling around the edges of the dimly lit space. As they coalesced, I could make out shapes more children. They were no longer just drawings, they were real, standing in the corners, pale and translucent, their eyes wide with fear. I stepped back instinctively, my breath hitching in my throat. Help us, one of them whispered, its voice barely above a breath. It stepped closer, and I could see a tear running down its cheek. I should have felt pity, but all I felt was terror. I glanced around for an escape. The staircase had disappeared behind me, replaced by solid walls that felt like they were closing in. The air became thick and suffocating, filled with their cries. Every pair of eyes was locked on me, pleading silently. I took a shaky step back and stumbled over something on the ground. Looking down, I realized it was a small, broken doll, a headless figure with a frayed dress. It was wrong to be here. I shook my head, trying to push the panic away. What do you want from me? I shouted, but my voice trembled and fell flat amidst their mournful cries. Suddenly, one of the shadows lunged forward, breaking free from the group. I froze, my body refusing to move as it reached for me. I heard its voice again, urgent and sharp. Find us. They're here. You have to find us. Before I could process what that meant, the others surged forward, and the room exploded with sound, screams and whispers merging into a cacophony. I was overwhelmed, tugged in every direction, as if drawn into a vortex of despair. Then, just as quickly as it began, everything fell silent. The shadows froze, their expressions shifting from desperation to a dreadful stillness. I realized it was because something else had entered the space. A new presence, heavy and menacing, had seeped into the room. A dark figure emerged from the recesses of the shadows. Its outline was distorted, like a mirage rippling in front of me. It moved with intent, crawling slowly toward the children with a sickening grace. My heart pounded as the realization hit me I wasn't supposed to be here. Leave! I screamed, the word tearing from my throat. But it didn't pay me any mind. The figure seemed focused on the shadows, its fingers curling with twisted anticipation. As I backed away, I caught a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye. A door materialized behind me, an old wooden door with rusty hinges. Without a second thought, I bolted for it, praying it would open. With one hard shove, it swung wide. An escape, but it wasn't a relief, it was a descent into another dark void. I felt the cool air rush past me as I stumbled through, and I fell. The floor gave way, and I felt myself tumbling, spiraling into nothingness that I landed hard on a cold surface, gasping for breath. I blinked into unfamiliar light, trying to shake the overwhelming sense of dread that clung to me. The whispering had returned, echoing louder than before. That's when I saw it. A large mirror, intact this time, standing against the wall. But the reflection staring back at me wasn't my own. Instead, it was of the children, their eyes wide and pleading, and behind them, the dark figure loomed, watching me with a knowing smile. The air was thick with a tension that made it hard to breathe. I took a few shaky steps toward the mirror, drawn in by the chilling sight. The children looked almost real, their faces contorted with fear and sorrow. I blinked, trying to convince myself this was just a cruel trick of light. But their eyes, those wide, desperate eyes, held me hostage. "What do you want?" I whispered, half afraid to speak, as if saying the words out loud would make it all worse. The children didn't respond, but their gazes shifted slightly, as if they were pointing to something behind me. My skin prickled with an unsettling feeling. I didn't want to turn around, but my instincts screamed that I needed to know what lurked in the darkness. That I took a deep breath and turned slowly. The dim light flickered, revealing a narrow corridor extending into more shadows. The door I had fled through vanished behind me, leaving only the mirror and the oppressive silence. Panic surged again, and I recognized the weak pulse of fear running through my veins. Just then, I heard a soft clicking noise, a single sharp sound echoing off the walls. It was faint but distinct, like fingernails scraping against glass. I looked back into the mirror, and the children now appeared to be moving, closer to the surface, their mouths forming silent cries. I stumbled back, unable to look away despite my instincts telling me to run. "Find us," a voice echoed through the corridor, warped and distant. It was the same voice I had heard before, the urgency palpable. Each word seemed to resonate deep within me, pulling at some hidden memory I couldn't grasp. Somewhere in this dark maze, I was meant to connect the threads, but I didn't understand how. "Please," I called into the void, my voice trembling. "What happened to you?" I heard another clicking sound, louder this time. The air shifted, colder now, as a shadow moved in the periphery of my vision. I turned quickly, my heart racing. There, at the edge of the hallway, the distorted figure stood again, its dark silhouette pulsating as if it were alive. It was closer than before, and the knowing smile on its face deepened, revealing jagged teeth. That I stumbled back toward the mirror, the children's reflection still clawing at the glass. "Why are you showing me this?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. The figure didn't answer, it only watched, eerily still, but I felt the weight of its gaze pressing down on me. With every second that passed, the whispers grew louder, a chorus of agony wrapping around me like chains. My mind raced. The children had called to me. They needed help. But the figure, what was it? Did it want to keep me here? I had to do something. I had to push through the fear. I stepped forward, intending to shout my resolve into the darkness. But just as I opened my mouth, the world around me shuddered. The glass of the mirror rippled, distorting the children's faces into grotesque shapes, then everything went dark. In that instant, I felt weightless, suspended in nothingness. I couldn't tell which way was up or down. I was caught in a void, and then the whispering faded into silence, leaving me alone with my racing pulse. What had I unleashed? And more importantly, where was I now? I gasped as the darkness swallowed me, a cold, sharp intake of breath that felt like an electric shock. The silence was deafening. I blinked, trying to adjust to the absence of light, but it was as if my mind had shut down. My heart thudded loudly in my chest. After what felt like an eternity, a faint glow pierced through the blackness. I squinted, focusing on a dim, flickering light up ahead. Hesitantly, I moved toward it. My feet met solid ground, and I could feel the texture beneath me gritty and uneven. I stepped carefully, the air thick with an unfamiliar mustiness. The light grew brighter with each step, leading me into what looked like an abandoned room. Old furniture, covered in dust and decay, stood like silent witnesses. Shattered windows let in stray beams of moonlight, creating an eerie patchwork of light and shadow. Something inside me went on alert. As I scanned the room, I caught a glimpse of something shifting in the corner. My breath caught as I turned, just in time to see a silhouette dart behind a tattered curtain. It was quick, too quick to be anything ordinary. It felt like a warning, a telltale sign that I wasn't alone. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling, barely louder than a whisper. No response. Just the creaking of the old house settling. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes on me, anticipating my next move. Anxiety washed over me, but something else pulsed through the fear. A strange curiosity gripped me. I approached the curtain, drawn to the unsettling possibility that something or someone was hiding just beyond it. I moved cautiously, reaching for the fabric when suddenly, a raspy exhale met my ears. It wasn't the breath of a child. This was deeper, older, more intimidating. I froze. "Who is there?" No answer. I pulled the curtain back, and my stomach dropped. There was nothing but shadows clinging to the walls, shadows that seemed to expand and pulse as I shifted the fabric aside. My eyes scanned the room again, looking for any trace of what I had just heard, but it was gone. When I noticed an old wooden box in the center of the room. The box was intricate, worn but beautiful, carved with swirling patterns that felt almost alive. It beckoned to me, the very air around it weighed heavy with anticipation. Without thinking, I stepped closer, compelled by an urgent need to see what secrets lay within. I knelt down, my fingers brushing against the cool, dusty surface. As I lifted the lid, a rush of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering light. The dark enveloped me again, more oppressive than before. My heart pounded in my ears as I felt something brush against my arm, a touch so cold it felt wrong. Before I could react, I heard soft whispers, urgent and pleading. The voices of children. They echoed in the darkness, a haunting melody that wrapped around me. I closed my eyes, trying to block it out, but I couldn't. The urgency intensified, pushing me toward the unknown. Then everything snapped back into focus. The room, the box, the chilling whispers, they all faded as I was thrust into another darkness. My pulse skyrocketed again. I felt myself falling. I landed with a thud on a cold, damp surface. Looking around, I realized I was now in a different space entirely. This one felt more claustrophobic, small and damp, and I instinctively knew I had to get out. With renewed adrenaline, I took a breath and stood up, but just as I did, I heard something growling behind me. My blood ran cold. I spun around, and that's when I saw a pair of glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. And they were staring right at me. The glow of those eyes sent a jolt through me. My instincts screamed to run, but my legs felt frozen to the spot. The growl deepened, vibrating through the air, echoing off the damp walls. I forced myself to take a step back, heart racing uncontrollably as the creature emerged from the shadows. It was bigger than I imagined, muscular, with matted fur that blended seamlessly into the darkness. Its jaw opened slightly, exposing sharp teeth that glistened in the faint light. In that moment, I realized I was face to face with something that existed outside the realms of normality. I had to think. I couldn't let panic take over. Remembering the stories I'd heard about wild animals, I tried to make myself appear larger, to show it I wasn't afraid. "Go away!" I shouted, a desperate attempt that came out shaky. The creature halted, its head cocked to the side. For a split second, the growling stopped. I dared to hope it was backing down. But then it took a step toward me, and my courage crumbled. I turned, sprinting down the narrow corridor I had somehow missed in the gloom. My heart hammered as I dashed forward, the sound of pounding footsteps, my own intensified by the echoing walls. I ran blindly, not knowing where I was heading. I could only think of escape. The corridor twisted and turned, narrowing further until I found myself in a cramped stairwell. I rushed upwards, my breath coming in short, frantic bursts. The creature's growl returned, reverberating behind me. It was gaining on me. I couldn't let it catch me. As I reached the top of the stairs, I pushed open a door, praying for daylight. Instead, I stumbled into another room, this one seemingly untouched by the decay I had seen earlier. It was starkly different, light spilling through large, unbroken windows, illuminating the space. My eyes darted around, and for the briefest moment, I felt relief. But then I spotted what lay in the center of the room, a large, ornate mirror, tarnished yet mesmerizing. Its surface rippled like water as if something were moving inside. I approached cautiously, drawn in by an unseen power. I could feel the cold air from the depths of the mirror, pulling at my skin. Suddenly, the growling intensified and the creature burst through the door, eyes fixated on me. Its powerful body filled the frame, muscles tense and ready to leap. In that instant, I had a choice: face the beast behind me or step toward the mirror. Something shifted inside me, a realization that I needed to confront whatever this was. While I felt fear coursing through me, something else sparked in my gut. Determination. I stepped forward, coming face to face with the mirror's surface. As I did, the reflection began to change, flickering images that I couldn't quite focus on. I caught glimpses of children, their faces twisted in expressions of terror, reaching out towards me. Then, the creature lunged. My heart stopped. I had only a moment to react. With everything in me, I reached out, touching the cold mirror's glass, already knowing it was a choice that might change everything. That's when the world around me shifted again, and the room turned to darkness. In the thick darkness, I felt suspended between the worlds of nightmare and reality. The mirror vanished behind me, taking with it the growl of the creature that had chased me moments before. I stumbled, disoriented, the absence of sound filling my ears like static. The whispering returned, but it shifted, now more desperate. "Help us," it pressed, echoing from every corner of this dismal space. Gradually, shapes began to form from the shadows, a gathering of pale figures, hovering just beyond the reach of the dim light that flickered to life ahead of me. The air crackled with anticipation, like the electrified moment before a storm. I stepped forward, compelled by a force I couldn't explain. "Who are you?" I asked the figures, my voice trembling. The lead figure, a girl with hollow eyes and a long, flowing dress, stepped closer, almost solidifying in the meager light. "We can't leave," she whispered, a quiver of sorrow weaving through her words. "You have to help us." The word struck me like a hammer. Those anguished faces were not merely echoes of the past, they were trapped, just like I was. They needed something more than a rescuer, they needed understanding. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, heart racing. The air between us grew dense, and I could see the girl's face contort with pain, as if her very being was forged from the memories of suffering. "Find the truth," she pleaded. "In the mirror." Before I could process her request, the world shifted again. But this time, I felt my surroundings solidify around me, no longer engulfed by darkness but instead encased in the warm glow of a familiar light. I opened my eyes to find myself back in the industrial factory, standing beneath broken windows that allowed sunbeams to cut through the grime. I blinked, bewildered. Nothing was stirred by the wind, and the hushed atmosphere felt almost calming. As I glanced around, I spotted the faint outline of the old, cracked mirror propped against the wall, reflecting the sunlight with strange intensity. But something was different. The shadows crafted a new narrative, swirling and shifting within the glass like whispers trying to break free. Collecting my breath, I approached. "What is this?" I muttered as I brushed my fingers along the fragile surface. The moment I touched it, the images within warped, twisting to reveal glimpses of the factory and its prime children at play, laughter echoing until it morphed into shrieks of dread. I ripped my hand away, overwhelmed, and staggered back. In the distance, I heard a soft, almost imperceptible murmur. "Help us!" The weight of weightlessness pulled at my heart. I started to back away, but the shadows coalesced before me, grabbing at my limbs, a plea wrapped in desperation. I was at a crossroads, stay or go. I want to help. I shouted into the void, clenching my fists in a determined stand. The room vibrated with a low hum as if acknowledging my fervor. The children's face melded into the glass once more, crystal clear against the backdrop of swirling darkness. The girl's eyes blazed bright, her urgency echoing across time. You have to find what binds us, it's in the mirror, she implored. That I took another step forward, and suddenly, a singular force pushed me through. Don't let go. I yelled, plunging my hand again into the void of the mirror's depths, grasping for the truth that would set them free. The darkness enveloped me, pulling me in a whirlwind. I felt laughter, childish and ghostly, whirl around me, but there was no joy in it, only an echoing urgency that filled my soul with unbearable pressure. And then light. That I landed hard on concrete, cold and familiar. My heart pounded fiercely as I sat up, still reeling from the disorienting journey. Shaking off panic, I blinked against the brightness around me. Before me stood the factory in its prime, bustling with machinery and children running freely without a care. But a deep sorrow washed over me. Something wasn't right. There was an unseen barrier tethering those joyous faces, an unburdened life that felt hauntingly out of reach. Find us, the girl's voice rang. Again, this time feeling closer, more immediate. I turned, my instincts drawing me back toward the mirror, a portal between worlds, and with it, I felt both hope and a gnawing dread of what lay ahead. Was it possible for me to navigate this thin line of existence? As I prepared to step forward, part of me knew this was just the beginning. Perhaps I wouldn't find all the answers. Perhaps, some questions would remain. But the weight of their stares urged me on. Whatever it took, I would unravel the threads of their story, help them break free, and as I stepped toward the flickering light of the mirror again, I understood, the truth was waiting, and among the shadows, our destinies intertwined.